I have moved the Kindlet 200 inside the Shelter Logic shed in a box. I'm getting the machine dialed in and the mini firewood factory set up. So I am still learning about this Kindlet 200 and how it operates and the best way to send wood through it. I did have to make a few adjustments. There were some things in my last video that some of you may have noticed. I'm going to go over those and why we did what we did and why now today I'm going to try to not do those things. I'm going to try a little something different. I'm going to be running a bunch of oak that I have right here. And this oak in the tote will answer some of the questions from a while back about why people were wondering why I was only splitting with the Yappa into chunks like this. And the reason was I was leaving them in bigger chunks because I was waiting for the Kindlet 200 to show up. So the day after the Bob Nelson was here and dropped off the Kindlet 200, the next day I came out here and I wanted to get it out of the elements and have it under cover. And so I moved it in the Shelter Logic over here, and I'm glad I did because this morning we had quite the rainstorm, another rainstorm. And so I'm going to have to do something a little bit different because the water came running down, and then, well, you can probably see how dark it is in there with the mulch. It was kind of flooded out. So it's good. I'm glad that I got the Kindlet in under cover. The other nice thing that this does is it allows me to just have my tractor on the outside. So it does kind of help with the noise. I mean, the tractor only has to run at about 1,300 RPM, so it's just a little bit above idle, which is nice. So I've got the PTO pump hooked up right there, and then that just kind of runs in under the shelter. I did think about, and some of you may be wondering if it would be better to have the infeed over here where the wood is, and then the outfeed on that end. And I may end up switching it around. The only thing is that would then require the tractor to be on this side, which I'm gonna have to do some work to get this side ready. And then the other thing is that would make the tractor, well, it might stick out far enough, but if not, that would have the exhaust potentially, well, maybe not, but it would be blowing right towards the entrance of the shelter. And then the battery hookup, that cable would have to kind of run right past the exhaust. So I don't know if that would make any difference or not. I might switch it around. We will see. But for the time being, I did clean up in here. Kind of got everything moved around. Yeah, so for the time being right now, it'll just be a matter of taking the chunks from here, loading this up, and then once everything comes out this end, it will head over to the Shelter Logic greenhouse in a box. So from the shed in a box to the greenhouse in a box. That's kind of the workflow. I did hook up one of these big bags to pick out all the smaller, really thin scraps. It's kind of similar to the slash from a box wedge. So when we first ran this, what I did is I ran everything into this tote right here, the scraps and all. And if you were just making regular kindling, that wouldn't be, you wouldn't have to worry about this. Like all of this stuff here could just get mixed in with your kindling. And that's kind of, you know, that's like perfect kindling. So if you were just bagging your kindling right off of the tray at the end here, you really wouldn't have to worry about this. I, however, am looking for nice, clean, mini splits of firewood. So after sorting all of that stuff out, I realized it was just a whole lot easier to kind of clean everything right here in this tray. So as the wood comes out, it does require, you know, like, so I just like pause, I like stop the machine, I clean this stuff out, separate out the good, Down there, the scraps, which is kind of like just mulch. The little splits I throw in there, and then the nice clean splits I put in a basket or a box from Costco, whatever I have available, and then I will take them right over to the greenhouse. So in here I have, so this used to be full of all cherry. That's all been taken out. There used to be some cherry, I think there was some cherry down here. That's gone. That's now been all refilled with the oak we ran the other day. Still have a little maple on the top shelf, but this is all new cherry from the Kindlet, and then this is oak from the Kindlet. So you might be wondering, why don't I just put the Wolf Rage bagger at the end of the Kindlet and run everything into bags to bring in here? And that sounds like a great idea. However, I have discovered one thing. This white fabric of this greenhouse, certain spectrums and certain UV rays, it blocks out, other ones it lets through. And the UV rays that destroy these bags are ones that get let through, because all of these bags are just falling apart. Like they've just become trashed. So I will not be able to store wood in the bags in the greenhouse to season. Like they've just all, like this stuff just, it's just, you go to lift it up and it just rips apart. So I'm gonna have to come up with another solution. Besides, it would be nice to be able to just run everything into the bagger, dump it into a bag, bring the bags in here, and let them season, but that's not gonna work. The other thing you may have noticed in the last video is we had a board inside the infeed and going in with the wood. And the reason for that was the first wood that I ran through this was cherry, and it was a little twisted, a little knotty. And because of the knife here, you can see the paint starting to get wore off that. But what was happening was the wood was actually sticking on this knife and getting pulled back with it. And then as the wood would get pulled back, the next time the knife came out, the wood would end up getting twisted. It would like twist because it wasn't hitting. This tray is like 6.5 inches wide, and those pieces were like 5 inches. So it wasn't, it was causing the wood to twist. So we put in a spacer. I just took a deck board and I put that in. You can kind of see it got beat up. But what that did is it kept the wood nice and tight and snug, and it didn't allow the wood to twist. Today, with this oak, I'm going to try to run it without the board. This stuff is around 5.5 inches. So there's still a little gap, but I'm going to try to see. I've adjusted the knife to have it come out pretty much as far as it can. So we're going to see if today, running the oak, if it'll split and won't get twisted. Just going to test it out and see how it's going to run. Again, I'm getting everything kind of dialed in. I'm still learning about this Kindlet 200. It is one heck of a machine though. Let me tell you, it puts out, well, you'll see here. I'm going to get this thing fired up and we'll get running through some of these oak chunks, and we'll be making some beautiful back 40 mini firewood. If you are wondering why I have this cord draped up over the throttle, it is for a reminder so that I don't just come over here and at some point jump on the tractor and drive off. So there's the RPMs of the tractor when I start it up and it's at idle, the idling speed. And I only need to go to right about there. A little over 1,300 RPM. right, so this is what happens when a piece gets pushed up and lifts. It lifts this thing up and it makes the lid open up and it stops it. So you just have to pull these pieces out and then kind of restart it. And again, it's probably because this piece hit a knot, or it could be because the wood is getting kind of twisted again. So I'm not sure, but that's the fix. So now that this can go back down, so you can see here, if a piece gets jammed and lifts this up, this bar will open the lid, and then this little probe right here lifts out of this right here and it stops the machine. So now that that's back in place, we can start it back up. So there was the run of everything I had lined up on the infeed coming in. And now, like I said, I think it's just better to separate out this stuff now instead of pushing it all into one great big tote. So you can see here, you know, like here, great, perfectly looking fine pieces of wood. This one right here might be a little big. Same with this. Some of you are wondering what little boss man is going to do now, but like these pieces right here that need to be resplit maybe one more time. This one, you can see what happened there. Had a big knot on the inside. That's probably why that piece got either flipped over and kicked out and didn't get split again. But that stuff, like these bigger pieces, that'll just go into the finished basket here, and those will get sent over to the greenhouse. So then the rest of the bark and the trash in here, I can just push out that chute through the bottom, and it kind of just keeps everything clean and sorted. We've got one basket full of some beautiful looking back 40 mini firewood. They got some more scraps, some smaller splits, some mini firewood over there, and then all the debris is separated out down there. And in case you're wondering, let's just take one of these pieces over here. 25%, 32, 27, 23. So still needs to dry down a little bit more. So under 30%, but still not quite down to 20. So now the process will be to take this basket to the greenhouse by using the handles. Whew, and it's starting to get hot in here. So all right, now that this is all oak, so I'm going to dump it down on this end. And pretty simple process, just dump it out and there you go. That is the little back 40 mini firewood workflow so far. So I'm still getting familiar with the Kindlet 200, still getting things kind of dialed in, figuring out what is going to be the best workflow for using this for my needs, the way I'm intending to use it for the mini firewood. Like I mentioned earlier, if you were just making straight, kindling, you probably, I think a mouse just ran out of that basket. If you were making kindling, you probably, I don't know if you'd be using oak, number one. You might be using, pine or some other softwood, so that would be different. The other thing is it would make it real easy to just bag this stuff up right off the end and have it ready to go to ship or to send out with your orders of bulk firewood. But for now, as a hobbyist, just getting things, like I said, the whole workflow, figuring that out, what's going to work best for me. It's just all part of the process, which I find fun. But I hope you guys enjoyed that little run and just that going over how everything kind of is evolving here in the woodyard since the last video. It's only been a couple days, but in those few days, I moved the Kindlet in here, kind of got things situated, and then just kind of figured out what was going to be best for separating out the wood, the slash, and the trash. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Stay safe, have fun, and be cool.